That's maybe how it works. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Kacharya Astottara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And we'll most likely lead into the Lilamrita now, huh? Over to you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we are now reading from Prabhupada's Lilamrita. And it is chapter 33 in the Canto 1 and the chapter 33, a lot of ground to be covered. On Prabhupada's last morning in Indore, he continued the story of Ajamila. He explained that because Ajamila had uttered the holy name, he had immediately obtained salvation, even though he had been so sinful. So Ajamila, at the time of his death, had remembered his youngest son, whose name was Narayana. The very name Narayana has got the full potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. This is the secret of Nama Sankirtan movement. By chanting the holy name of Narayana, you immediately contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namo, the Lord's name, is not material. It is spiritual. Krishna and Krishna's name, there is no difference. In a very appealing voice, Ajamila began to ask his son Narayana, please come here, I am dying. He was very afraid of the Yamadutas. Krishna sent the Vishnudutas to give Ajamila shelter. The Vishnudutas looked just like Lord Narayana with 4 hands. With a grave voice, they said to Yamaduta, what are you doing? Stop, you can't take this man to Yamraj. Prabhupada ended his lecture and his stay in Indore, having accepted an invitation to travel to Surat in the state of Gujarat and hold Krishna consciousness programs. He and his disciple would be leaving shortly. Devotees from Bombay would also join them. Prabhupada had to come Indore for Gita Jayanti Mahotsav, but actually the Mahotsav was but a small part of his preaching in Indore. He had met hundreds of people, made life members and friends. He had touched their lives. His presence in the Indore would leave a lasting impression. Baba Bal Mukund. I have seen many sadhus and great saints in the Gita Bhavan. I saw Srila Prabhupada also in the same place. I was very much impressed by Srila Prabhupada and his preaching. It was because Prabhupada has revealed the reality about bhakti, because he was a pure bhakta, that he could change the people of the West and give them another dress, he could give them another diet, he could entirely change their culture and give them the true bhakti. And this was the greatest thing Prabhupada has done. Let the world say it as it likes, but he has done a marvelous thing regarding Lord Krishna's bhakti. what Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ramtirtha, and others couldn't do, Srila Prabhupada has done. It is a marvelous thing. Hare Krishna. So I've stopped here now.
Jai Sila Prabhupada ki jai. We
Jai.
can't help but be inspired by hearing about the glories of Srila Prabhupada and his preaching. Oh, glories to Prabhupada. So, we are today reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 12, text number 12. So I'll read the verse and purport. Rahuganai tat tapasa nayati nachajaya nirvapanad gahadva nachandasa naiva palagnir suryaya vina mahatpada rajo bhishekam. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of householder life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Actually, knowledge of transcendental bliss can be bestowed upon anyone by a pure devotee. Videshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto. One cannot attain the perfection of spiritual life simply by following the directions of the Vedas. One has to approach a pure devotee. Anyabhilasita sunyam gana karma jnanavritam. By the grace of such a devotee, one can understand the absolute truth, Krishna, and one's relationship with him. A materialistic person sometimes thinks that simply by executing pious activities and remaining at home, one can understand the absolute truth. That is denied in this verse. Nor can one understand the absolute truth simply by observing the rules and regulations of brahmacharya or celibacy. One only has to serve the pure devotee. That will help one understand the absolute truth without fail. Omagana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual masters forcing me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. So, the subject matter being discussed is Rahugana, Maharaj Rahugana, speaking further with Jad Bharat. Jada Bharat is enlightening Rahugana Maharaj. We heard at the end of the last chapter that the uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. And it's stated at the end of that chapter that try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the spiritual master. Arjuna, we are familiar with, is saying that Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadritam tashaham nigraham manye vayuriva chatuskritam. That to try to control the mind is like trying to control the wind. And Krishna's response is, yes, that is true, Arjuna, but it's possible by constant practice and detachment. So Krishna is acting as the spiritual master of Arjuna and encouraging him. Yes, this task is not easy. It's not easy, but it is easy when one takes shelter of the proper person. And that great insurmountable ocean is reduced from an ocean down to the amount of water in the hoofprint of a calf, which is very small. And Shastra Bhagavatam says that this can easily be crossed over. So this is the amazing potency of the Srimad Bhagavatam's explanations. They're able to help us understand that yes, to struggle against this material energy and become successful is a fool's paradise. It's not possible to do it. It's insurmountable. Daivahi shagunamai mama maya duratyaya. Krishna says that this material energy consisting of the three modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome. So these three modes are not only three, they become nine, they become 81, they become unlimited modes of material nature. And they can bewilder the living entity endlessly in his pursuit of trying to overcome the, the material energy, to control, to be the master of the material energy. So we have to find a way, just like in this modern technology, they've got files and then you get zipped files, you have to condense them down and then you can do so much with them and so on. So in a similar way, we have to learn how to condense down this whole material uh, uh, cosmos and reduce it down to its fundamental principle. And the fundamental principle is Krishna. He is the source, sarva karana karanam. Materialistic persons are thinking that the source, and that was described in the last chapter, they think that everything is emanating from this universe itself. It is coming from matter. Uh, and they are discovering certain laws of nature, and in this way we think we can understand. But behind all of this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pardon me. So the mind is the sixth sense. We know that there are the five senses, and then there is the sixth sense, which is the mind. And everything is around, or the mind is the central point through which all the other senses connect. And the mind accepts and rejects. If this is favorable for my immediate gratification, I can accept. If it's not, then I'm not so much interested. This is the mind's business, accepting, rejecting. It doesn't have the discriminatory factor. That is the intelligence. And that's another subject. The intelligence is fast asleep most of the time. Uh, so now, having been instructed that controlling the mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity, try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the spiritual master. Jada Bharat is continuing to instruct Maharaj Rahugana, who has very nicely asked that I've heard your instructions, and this happens in different places in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that one needs further inquiry. Now, that inquiry should be given with great submission. It's not that one cannot inquire, but it should be in a mood of submissive service. Tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekyanti te jnanam jnaninas tadvadarshana. That one should inquire from the spiritual master. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire submissively and render service unto the spiritual master. The spiritual master can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. And Srila Prabhupada, in one of the purports, says that that is the qualification, because the spiritual master has seen the truth. But he is able to reveal, and that is, we are all spiritual masters. to some degree, small. But not everyone is a Trikalagya who knows everything past, present, and future. Not everyone is a Paramahamsa, topmost devotee. But we are knowing Krishna to some extent, and it's said that the birds fly in the sky according to their capacity. So we are having some knowledge, and we're able to give that knowledge, and those who have more can give more, and those who are the topmost devotees are the ones that we should search out. We should search out all devotees because they're all giving Krishna, but we're always encouraged to seek out uh, Krishna, actually. So again, I'm trying to make that point. You can get Krishna from any devotee. The neophyte devotee, the very beginning devotee, is a great source of inspiration. Why? Because he's come in contact with Krishna and he's so excited about Krishna consciousness. And to get that association is very, very wonderful. And to get the association of those who are being rendering service for some time is very relishable. And those who are very advanced, the nectar of instruction and encourages us in this way that we should offer all respects. We should offer our mentally to those who are in the neophyte stage. We should offer our obeisances to those who are engaged in the process of worshipping Krishna and have undergone spiritual initiation. And we should seek out and faithfully serve those devotees who are advanced in the process of devotional service and whose hearts are completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Interesting point. It's being described by Rupa Goswami that this is the topmost quality to be sought out, to seek out those who are non-envious. Not an easy thing, not an easy thing. One devotee was asking, I think, Vaisheshika Prabhu the other day on a lecture that I was listening to, and they were asking that in a very humble way, a sincere way, a very vulnerable way. They were asking, he said, when I come in contact with devotees, she said, it was a lady, and she was saying, I have this strong tendency to find fault and criticize. And she said, I know it's not good to make, these are aparads like that. So how can I get rid of this? And Vaisheshika Prabhu gave a really nice, sweet answer. He said that he said, yes, that is a big problem. He said it's like a pot of poison. And if we take of that pot of poison and criticize the devotees, then it will kill us. It will kill our devotional creeper. Uh, but he said, alongside the pot of poison, there's a little pot of antidote, not anecdote, but antidote. When you have the poison, you have to have the antidote for the poison. And the antidote is to instead of focus on the fault, realize, yes, I have this tendency, so therefore I shouldn't focus there. I should take the little nectar pot alongside. In the nectar pot, to bring out the nectar, the antidote. Sorry, I'm trying to get these. Even I'm struggling with these English words. The antidote is to see something. Any devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation and who's engaged in worshiping Krishna through the processes of devotional service has some good quality, must have, otherwise you can't engage in those activities. So focus on that. And then, if you can, look for the opportunity to glorify that person for that quality. And that is the antidote. But we don't want it. We want to wallow in the criticism. And we don't realize that the criticism is killing ourselves and not affecting anybody else but ourselves and anyone else who hears us. So this is a very interesting point in this process. So continuing on from there in this chapter, so this was the end of the last chapter. This chapter, it's explaining in the introduction, by associating with devotees engaged in the 9 processes of devotional service, we become free from the 3 modes of material nature. And that is the very important thing to come to this Shuddha platform. The modes of material nature are always struggling for dominance. Mode of ignorance is there. mode of passion, and even the mode of goodness. Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistrigunya Bhavarjuna. Krishna says to Arjuna that the Vedas deal mainly with the three modes of material nature, and I want you to rise above this, Arjuna, because the best you can get from those modes of material nature, and even through the Vedas, is to elevate yourself to a higher level of sense enjoyment in the material existence. That was why Narad approached Vyas when he'd felt this incompleteness, this despondency. He felt dissatisfied, even compiling Mahabharata and all the Vedas, four Vedas like that. And he was feeling despondent. And Narad chastised him, actually. He said, the problem is that you've put so much emphasis on this Vedic literature, but in this Vedic literature so far, you haven't established the Supreme Personality of Godhead fully. You've only mentioned him here and there as a historical part of the whole Vedic literature. But until you glorify the Supreme Lord fully, you will always feel dissatisfied, because that's the nature of the living entity, is to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vyas was very happy to hear the chastisement of his guru and the redirecting him to compile the Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature, the natural commentary by the same author of all the Vedas as Srila Vyasadeva. So he's compiling this Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this Bhagavatam, he's describing all the stories of great souls who have traversed the path of bhakti, how they have run into difficulties. We're hearing now about Rahugana, Maharaj Rahugana, hearing from Jad Bharat. And in this chapter, we see that Jad Bharat reveals very confidentially to Rahugana Maharaj, because he sees he's very sincere and he's in a very important position as the king. And he's seeing this is an opportunity for me. And he's so compassionate that he's even risking his own safety to preach to Rahugana Maharaj, who's actually a king, they have been in a difficult situation. He could be killed, executed by Rahugana Maharaj for his impudence, etc. But he's taking the risk. He sees this person actually could be saved. This person could be moved from their consciousness and could develop higher consciousness, which would be very pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he took the risk to preach to him. And he's preaching in this way that I'm just thinking how to proceed. Yes, so he's preaching to him that um, I'm just trying to pick it up. I've got a few notes over here. Let's see. Uh, the Panchanga Bhakti. Yes. So he's basically preaching that to help us to understand the nature of this. This is called Sankhya philosophy, to carefully study the uh, cosmic manifestation and to be able to see the difference between matter and spirit. Hmm. This is to be understood, that there is a higher Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu, the earth, the water, the fire, the air, and the ether, the mind, the intelligence, the false concepts of existence. All of this, Krishna says, is my separated material energies. They're my inferior energy. And then he says, Apariyam itastvanyam prakriti vidime param. That there is a higher nature, there's another category of energy that is not material but is spiritual. And they are the living entities who are different. And in another place, he explains 335 that when you thus learn the truth from the spiritual master, you will understand that all beings are part of me and are in me and they're mine. They're not different from me. They're part of me. This idea of separateness is a part of the illusory energy. As soon as one takes on the material identification through ahankara, this false concept of self. When one comes into the material world, then he's forced to accept that. Lord Brahma was not very happy when he had to create this part of the cosmic manifestation, the illusory energy, where the living entities think themselves to be the part of the whole thing. And he wasn't very happy. Uh, and then he was told, don't worry, I'll give you other things you can create, which will be knowledge of how to come out of this. So he was a little satisfied by that instruction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that Krishna has his plan. He's made everything perfectly for the living entity to come to the material world in a dreamlike state. It's just basically it's real, but it's dreamlike in that it's absolutely temporary. And that is what Rahugana Maharaj is pointing out to Jada Bharat. Or should I say, vice versa, Jad Bharat is pointing out to Rahugana Maharaj that now you're thinking you're a king. You're thinking I'm a palanquin holder. You think that it's your duty to chastise me because you're a king and you have to bring me into line. But you don't realize that you're speaking in such a rough way, in a way which is not very congenial for someone who's spiritually advanced, but for it sounds like someone who's completely covered by the material energy and thinks in terms of I am a king instead of thinking I am a Vaishnava, I am a servant of the Supreme, and my duty as a king is to function in a way to bring about the spiritual upliftment of all the living entities. So it's a subtle thing. Um, in one sense, it's a subtle. In another sense, it's quite gross, but it's kind of subtle. And the devotees, when Srila Prabhupada was explaining this whole idea of Vana and Ashram, and Prabhupada's mentioned here that, or the verse itself mentions that, you know, whether one is a householder, a vanaprastha, sannyasi, or grihastha, that doesn't, those things, they don't uh, so much matter that I'm sorry, I lost the plot. That went down here and up there and back out again. Oh, Krishna. Um, I was trying to make a point, but then I get caught in the Varnashram. It's so complicated. Um, so we have to. Uh, mm, Gosh, I've lost that point. I'll just have to come back to it if Krishna is kind enough and allows me to. So I will try my best, or see if Krishna wants me to come back to that um, point. Uh, so the atomic cause, Rahugana Maharaj is thinking in that way, and Jada Bharat is explaining to him that all of this is actually coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's some verses quoted there, and statements Srila Prabhupada explaining. It's not coming through matter, uh, but it is coming from the Supreme. He quotes Janmadasha Yataha. Everything is emanating from the original personality of Godhead. Everything. And then he quotes also Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Aham Savasya Prabhavo. Krishna says, I am the source of all spiritual and material world. Everything emanates from me. So that is what is to be seen. That we are uh, that everything is coming from Krishna, that there's nothing other than Krishna. There only is ultimately Krishna in all his various manifestations. Vishnu Tattva manifestations, Shakti Tattva manifestations, Jiva Tattva manifestations, the, the material energy. All of these different energies are part of the Supreme, and they work harmoniously in symmetry and and the the driving force is love. The connecting force is loving exchange between all of those energies, and it functions in its perfection there. We know that everything comes from the Lord. Om Purnamada Purnamidam, like that, everything. And even this cosmic manifestation, although it's perfectly imperfect. Uh, so we are caught in this material existence, thinking ourselves to be the Kshatriya or the Shudra or so on. And Prabhupada, back to that point, Srila Prabhupada tried to explain this to the devotees, and the devotees were struggling to understand in one very famous morning walk conversation. And Srila Prabhupada was saying, yes, one has to act as a Brahmana, one will act as uh, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And then devotee said, yes, so that means, Srila Prabhupada, there will be Shudra Vaishnavas, there will be Brahmana Vaishnavas, there will be Kshatriya Vaishnavas, and Vaishya Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada said, no, you're not understanding. There will be Vaishnavas. They'll all be Vaishnavas. And one Vaishnava may act in that capacity, but we should not see him. Oh, he's a Sudra Vaishnava. I'm a Brahmana Vaishnava. I'm doing the puja. He's only cutting the grass, or he's feeding the cows, or whatever he may have to do. I'm so superior to him. I'm so advanced in spiritual life. No, Prabhupada very clearly and nicely but strongly pointed, no, you're not understanding. What you do is not the important thing. How you do it and who you do it for is the important thing. And Krishna says that in second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma Sunustita Pumsam Vishvakshini. Yeah, like that. Dharma Sunustita Pumsam Vishvakshena Katasya Notpadaye Dhrati Ratim Shrama Evihi Kevalam. The occupational activities a person performs according to his own position, according to the caste divisions and orders of life, are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for hearing the message of Vasudev. And all occupational activities are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. You should never be performed for material gain. And there's all these verses there explaining the difference. So Jad Bharat is extending himself and trying to um, uh, present things again in a way which will be even more suitable for Rahugana Maharaj to understand the difference between the Jivatma and the conditioned existence as a material identity, identifying in so many different ways. So the amazing thing is that this universe in text 10 says has no ultimate existence. This universe has no ultimate existence. So if we analyze it very carefully, this whole cosmic manifestation, this whole universe comes into existence. We hear about the appearance of Lord Brahma. He's not able to understand what is up and what is down, where he is, how to create. He has this sense that he has to create, but doesn't know how and where. He's given the impetus from the Lord. He's given all the guidance from the Lord to create, and he begins to create everything. So it comes into existence. Lord Brahma comes into existence. The whole universe from Brahma then comes into existence. It is maintained for some time. And then ultimately it is annihilated. But it's going on at such a scale that it's inconceivable. And this is just one tiny little Lord Brahma. And we know from Krishna's pastimes that when Lord Brahma went, he said to see Krishna in Dwarka like that, the woman said, which Brahma has come? And he said, what do you mean, which Brahma? The four-headed Brahma, the Lord of this universe. He said, oh, yeah, like that. So, the story is there. So this universe is just one universe. So how great is Krishna? Sometimes we think, oh yeah, Krishna is really great. But it's totally beyond our comprehension how great Krishna is. Uh, so we have to understand there's so many verses that I can't remember and don't know, but Kavim Purana Manasasi Taram Manoranayam Saranusmaredyat Sarvashatataram Achincharupam Adityavanam Tamasa Parastat. And this Mahavishnu Maharaj used to point out so nicely, there are so many beautiful verses. And he'd be able to preach all day on the verses, all the qualities of Krishna. There's Krishna's name, then his form, and then his qualities, then his pastimes. There's so much for us to meditate upon that beautiful, all attractive, all powerful source of all pleasure. And if we can somehow get the association, and that's what it all comes down to, one must approach a spiritual master to understand Krishna. Uh, and that is so, so, so important. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma and all the other demigods are approaching the Lord, and they are asking a very important question. They say, what happens to other persons who have undergone great austerities? Aruru Krichrena Param Padam Pada. What happens to those persons? They are performing different processes for aspiring for liberation. What happens to them? We know that the devotees are always taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That's their process. But what happens to all these other persons? So the Lord explains that even though they may imagine themselves to have become liberated by the processes of great austerities and penances and study of Shastra and so on and so forth, they cannot find any ultimate shelter. There's no ultimate shelter. Why? Because there only is ultimately one reality, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yajganamadvayam brahmati paramatmati bhagavanati subjite. That Brahman is understood in three aspects as impersonal Brahman, then Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And one can only find ultimate resting places at the lotus feet of the Lord. So this can be given, this ultimate understanding, excuse me, can be given by the pure unalloyed devotees of the Lord. And there's that beautiful verse that Yenyer avindaksha vimuktamani nastvayasta bhavada vishuddha bhutaya, that those persons are performing, but their intelligence is avisuddha, it is impure. There's still that impurity is there, and they're not able to take shelter. So one should take the association of the pure devotees of the Lord. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastri Hois. Lava Matra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shri Hoy. Lava Matra is 1/11th of a second. It's a moment. Just a moment's association. One can begin, get a start in spiritual life. And sorry, I've got so many verses in my brain, they're all mixed up, but in some ways. But then there's another nice verse that mentions that what is the value of a prolonged duration of life, inexperienced by so many years in this world? Better a moment's full consciousness, because that will give one a start in searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is very important. Kim pramatasya bahubiya parokshai hayanai harvaram mahuttam viditam gatate shreyasa vita. Shreyas, the ultimate benefit, can be gained by a moment's association with, and that just gives one a start. Better a moment's full consciousness. And how do you get that full consciousness? You get that full consciousness by hearing from the Lord's pure devotees, who are established in this transcendental state of full absorption, samadhi in Krishna consciousness. And they don't waver from that path. They're always Krishna conscious in all circumstances. And we saw that in Srila Prabhupada's life. He didn't have a separate life. He didn't have a private life. In his private life, he was Krishna conscious. Yeah. Everything he did was Krishna conscious. So wonderful, so beautiful to see. It's nice to see the beautiful videos of Srila Prabhupada. It's such a gift. Such a gift. The devotees, there's the devotee Siddhanta. He also calls himself Siddhanta. His name is Siddhanta. So he's compiled all those beautiful compilations of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada's, their memories of Prabhupada, very uplifting, especially when we get that connection to connect to Prabhupada and we feel Prabhupada's presence. And then when we see the actual videos of Srila Prabhupada and see him, the way his gestures, the way he answered questions, the way he spoke to all kinds of different people, we should watch them, assimilate them, meditate on them, and see Krishna, see Sri Krishna. And that we can do by the association of devotees, by the Bhagavatam, by the holy name, all aspects. This is, but the association is really important. We hear the Panchanga Bhakti. There's of all the, I think I can't remember the number, but there's a large number of devotional activities. I forget the exact number, but the acharyas have said that out of all the processes, there's 5 very important processes, and that is the process of, I wrote them here so that I don't forget, but we know the try and remember the hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the living in a holy place, the chanting of Hare Krishna, and what's the other 2? The association of the devotees. And it's said that I've got it written somewhere. We get so many different notes. See if I can find it. Slow down, Jaya Sila. Try and be in a mode of at least goodness, for goodness sakes. No, I can't see it. I can only see. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So chanting Hare Krishna, worshipping the deity, studying or discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, and living in a holy place. And the other one is to associate with pure devotees. So when we look at those, they all depend pretty much on the association with the devotees. We don't live in a holy place on our own, as we hear from this story of Jad Bharat. That was one of the problems, that when he became attached, spontaneous, out of love, appreciation, out of kindness, merciful to the little deer, and somehow he became attached. And if Prabhupada in the purport to one of these verses says that if he had the association of a spiritual master or association with a Vaishnava, then they would have obviously pointed out, hey, back off on the little deer. He's only a deer, for goodness sakes. But somehow, and this is the pastime ultimately of the Lord. And so the association is so important. So we don't live in a holy place on our own, especially in this age of Kali. We have to have a good association. The discussions of Srimad Bhagavatam, they always go on. And the more we can be in the association, satam prasangam mama virya samvido, bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata, tachjoshanat asu apavargavatmani, shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishyati. Anukramishyati means step by step, krama. So the step-by-step process, gradually we make progress by the association. And it's very pleasing to the ear and satisfying to the heart if we can hear from those persons that are more advanced in spiritual life. And Srila Prabhupada in another, I better watch time. Yeah, we'll finish in a few minutes. In another place, Prabhupada points out, is it 342, 32? Three, anyway, I can't give the exact reference off the top. But he points out that very important point that one should not be envious of devotees who are more advanced, or God brothers who are more advanced than ourselves. Uh, One should be seeking out their association if they're more advanced, and be happy, be inspired by those personalities, and try to associate with them in a mood of respect, appreciation, and service, and be able to have that mood instead of becoming envious. So Prabhupada makes it's a very important point. And if one is a bit more advanced, he should be more, and you see that they're not thinking, yeah, I'm more advanced than this one, but they're in a humble mood. That shows their advancement. But we shouldn't worry about that so much. We should just take their association. Okay, so I've covered many points, um, and the importance of that association cannot be overestimated. And we should seek it everywhere, from the new Bhakta, from our God brothers and sisters of the same level. We should seek to find those persons who are more advanced than ourselves. We should seek for this association of Krishna through the holy name, realizing that there's nothing else, as we have just heard, that there's nothing in the 14 worlds, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but the holy name. So why is he saying that? Because this cosmic manifestation comes into existence and maintains for some time and is destroyed, it disappears. Everything is dreamlike in that coming into existence and then it winds up. So there's nothing actually of any significance and permanence than the spiritual energy, and that is the living entity, the supreme Godhead, the holy name of the Lord, which is non-different, the Shastra, and we look and search for Krishna. Where is Krishna? Is he here? Is he there? Where can we find Krishna? So that's our existence. So I'll finish there. Please excuse me for my capacity to fly in the sky. It's not very high, but we're trying. Garuda flies high, and little black ducks try to get up occasionally and do something. So if anyone has any reflections, now reflections, I'll just coach a little bit on the reflections. It doesn't, it just means something, some point that you might have um, stuck in your thought, and just to reflect your thought around that um, would be appreciated. Or some question, if you have a question, we'll try our best. Can finish. Yeah, we've got 5 minutes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Jai Hari Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you very much. How you have enlightened the text so nicely, right from the beginning of the sense control, from the last chapter, and then how he has slowly been introduced to the devotional service by the giving knowledge by Jarabharat, and is finally channelized into the right knowledge, that how it is important to become Krishna conscious and how you can become Krishna conscious. So all this uh, knowledge he was just giving him so that he can understand his position and come out of his material position to the spiritual position, so that he can be part of this spiritual journey. Though he was a Vaishnava, but his understanding was a bit different from what he used to be. The difference between king and the servant, and how he used to treat them. So all these occasions, one after another, he made him understand the difference, so that he can come out of that materialistic way of thinking to spiritual thinking. And he has channelized the whole knowledge in such a beautiful way.
Mm.
Finally understood that by only by following the Varnashram system does not actually give us the right advantage to achieve spiritual knowledge. You need to be very much attached to your guru, so that he can give you right direction for perceiving the spiritual knowledge, and how Jarabharat has given this injection of spiritual knowledge to Jarabharat slowly and steadily, to make him understand the importance of spirituality. Thank you so much. Hare
I
Krishna.
I thank you. So you've summarized everything in a very nice way, and I feel great happiness that yeah, we're gift. It's such a gift for us to hear these great stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam that help us come all the time back to that point of understanding who we are and what our duty is in life, to like that. So thank you so much. Beautiful reflection. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Sir Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu, this is Nandraj here. Pranam Prabhu. Prabhu, in this verse, at the beginning, it says the translation, my dear King Raghugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. So this smearing the entire body with the dust, is it just physical? So if you roll in the dust of Vrindavan, or how do you look at this?
That's a great question. Thank you, Prabhu. I was thinking of that myself when I read it. Yes, excuse me. Um, is it speaking figuratively? Is it speaking factually? Do we have to go to Brindavan and roll in the samadhis in Radha Damodar temple and go here and go there? The answer is both. It- it's figurative in the sense that we may not be able to go to a holy place. We may be in Antarctica. I think somebody mentioned that they're distributing books in Antarctica this next marathon or something. So for whatever reason, one might not be able to go to such a place, but we can smear our entire body with the dust from the pages of the Bhagavatam. We can somehow or other get that mood of complete dependence on and surrender and taking shelter of the great devotees through hearing, through associate like that. But at the same time, if you get the opportunity, then take that dust in all humility. Um, so Nanda Braj, what do you think? Maybe you could just, what was your thoughts?
Probably it was a bit of puzzling to me. That's why I asked the question. But I think I understand your answer. It's both, physically we can go to Vrindavan or doing parikrama Govardhan, we can roll the dust because that dust has been touched by the feet of many, many great Vaishnavas. So, but then more important is making the consciousness with the purport by Srila Prabhupada. That's more than like smearing to purify existence. Otherwise, here, because in the end of this translation, translation Prabhupada says, truth is only revealed unto one who attain the mercy of the great devotee. So the mercy is such an important component of Vaishnava spiritual journey.
Yes,
So
yes.
unless we please the spiritual master, we please the devotees. Unless we get their mercy, we can get the grace of Krishna. So that's a very, very important aspect, I was thinking.
Yes, I think you've got it spot on. Raj, you have to do it all. You have to go to Brindavan, you have to go to Mayapur, you have to go to all the holy places whenever you can. But I can't remember which acharya you may remember. Someone may remember if you can. But he pointed out that actually he was so absorbed in service that he found visiting so many holy places was actually a disturbance to his service. He wasn't interested. He's fully absorbed. If that is the idea of going to the holy places. We don't go just to simply to take bath, as Shastra says. We go to associate with those great souls and get their dust. But they will tell us that you have to engage in service. So um, it's great. It's
Thank you, Prabhu.
yeah.
We
The
still got a
bread.
few minutes. Anybody gets reflection? Otherwise,
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the beautiful lection. I just have a little reflection that probably smearing in dust means that you got to be as low as feet of the devotees. You can't grab the dust from the feet if you don't bow down and feel like you're insignificant and very small, so you can reach out to the feet and
Uh,
dust in the feet of the devotees. That's my
thank you.
realization. Thank
That's
you.
a beautiful real. You know what? By saying that, you reminded me of something, and I'm going to share it very briefly. It's the other evening. Um, Ashraya Mataji's passing away, and we had a memorial service at the temple, and the devotees had put together a nice video of her bathing in different times. They put this video together. She was bathing the deities Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and other video clips. But then the specific one I remember was when she was bathing Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and I was thinking a few things. But I was thinking how small she is and how is she managing? I know what it's like. I'm not very tall, but I'm a little taller than Ashraya Mataji was. And to stretch, to go to bathe, it's quite a stretch. And then she managed to stretch over to Subhadra in the middle from Baladev, and then from like that, whatever way you're looking. And then she managed to stretch all the way over to the other deity, and then I was quite I thought, that's amazing. She's able to do that. And then you watch the video. It's so, and there's somebody put up a link for this video, so you can find it. Maybe it's on the same channel. It's gone Okon. And then it was so sweet. She stood for a while, and other things were going on around her. And then she went down, and she bowed down, 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 and to the lotus feet of the Lord. I think it's Lord Jagannath. I can't remember which side, but she bowed right down, and then you could see her just taking the dust, taking the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and then she came up a little bit, and then she went down again. And I was so moved by that, as I'm sure all the devotees were. That so thank you for sharing what you shared, Manaji, because it's all about that, taking the dust from in all submission and humility. And yeah, thank you. Ashraya Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. And this is our channel just. Thank you very much for the very nice class you have told. I mean, this is the highest philosophy of the Vaishnavism, and so many things you have, from different angles, you have explained it very nicely. Thank you very much. But one or two points that I have just, that is, I mean, I want to say on that very nicely. The problem of material life, what you have told, the poison you have told, and there is an antidote.
Uh-huh.
And antidote is to good at the good side of the things of the devotee, because no devotee can be devoid of good qualities. So we should look at that. And instead of that, instead, often the material people tries to look the other side, the negative side. So that is a great point for me to, you have very nicely covered it, and hopefully that will makes us, I mean, for me at least, will help me to improve on my looking at the other side of to devotees in future. Thank you for that.
Thank you for reminding me. I'll try and do it too.
And the other thing is that you have told that what Rahuguna has been advised by Jara Bharat is that that is what it reminds me of the sages of the Naimisharanya who asked the Sutta Goswami the same thing. What would be the best thing for the humanity? And that because the devotees of the Lord are really interested for the total welfare of a human being, and not like material development as has become the norms of the present day. I mean, the Prabhupada is told it is a misdirected civilization, only for sense gratification. And the more the sense gratification, the more is the sense gratification, the more things people thinks that we are advanced. That is the thing. But the devotees or the sages of the Naimisharanya asked Sutta Goswami, and Sutta Goswami's advice was that the highest welfare of the humanity can be done only if we align our life or our activities for the service of the Lord. And that will give us the knowledge, and that will give us the direction how we can lead our life. And you have very nicely, from different angles, from different quotations, you have done it, and thank you for that. And most important of them is to get the mercy of the devotees, who, and unless we get that, as the last line of this verse, that Bina Rajo
Bina Mahatpada Raja.
Rajo Abhishekam. So without the mercy of the devotees, the devotional service is never, never realized, or we cannot achieve our perfection without that. And we have very nicely pointed out. Thank you for that. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you for your reflections. So I get a sense that we should finish there.
I think the time is over now, and I'm not sure if anybody else wants to speak, or otherwise, if it is not there, you can finish that. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai.
Divine Grace A.P. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Vancha
Panchakalpa
Mancha
Tarishya
Kalpataru
Kripa
Sri
Sindhubhyo
Vaishnava
Bhavanebhyo
Vaishnava
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
अनंत कोटि
Vaishnava
कोटि
की जय।
की जय।
Hari Hari.
जय शिला प्रभु की जय।
जय।
शिला प्रभुपाद की जय।
जय।
और प्रेमानंदे हरि
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 हरि बोल।
Hare
All
Krishna.
goes to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.